Hey gang, here is a brief tutorial on how to use Desmos to do polar graphs. I have my polar graph already set up, but normally your default setting on Desmos is in just a regular Cartesian grid. So it would look like this when you start out. To get from the Cartesian axes to the polar axes, you hit this wrench for the graph settings, and then it gives you two choices for the grid. We have the rectangular grid and we have the circular grid. The circular grid is the polar grid. I'm going to leave the axis numbers all set. I'm going to leave the x and y axes all set. But make sure that it's in radian mode. If it's in degree mode, then it's not going to be as straightforward as what we've been working with. It's almost universally accepted that when you're working with polar equations, you're working with radians. Very, very, very rarely will you work with degrees. So we want radians. So we have this polar mode. So our polar mode is in terms of r and theta. R is very easy to enter in. You just type in r. Very straightforward. So if you do r equals 3, that means the radius is 3. It's all the points that are 3 units away from the pole. So everything 3 units away from the pole here gives us that circle. But if we want to do theta, there's no theta key on the keyboard. But if you just type in the word theta, Theta, it's going to give you that. So if we have 3 theta, it gives us this spiral because it's 3 times whatever the angle is at that point. So at pi over 3, it's at pi, which is a little bit more than 3, and this ring means 3. At, let's say 2 pi over 3, it's 2 pi, so a little more than 6. And if you want to use trig functions, you could just enter it in. So I have my cursor between the 3 and the theta, so I'm just going to toss in sine. So it gives us a circle. And you guys will be doing a discovery on this of why that's a circle. But yeah, so here it is. If you want, you can restrict theta. So if you want to do just 0 to pi over 2, oh look, just gives us the half circle. So if there's restrictions on theta, you can include those here. We're not always going to have restrictions on theta. In fact, very rarely will we. The restrictions are more in tune with when you're using the calculator. When it doesn't have as much processing power, you don't want to just keep reiterating because it's just going to continue along the circle over and over and over again and retrace itself continuously and infinitely. If you don't cap it on the calculator, it's just never going to stop calculating. On the computer, it's got the processing power to handle going through it multiple times very, very quickly. Calculator, not as much processing power. But that's pretty much the basics of polar graphing on Desmos. And I hope that makes sense. See you guys.